Welcome to the newest episode of the Process of Fat Loss, where our goal is to help you understand the best way to lose fat and live a healthier life. Join us as we discuss some of the toughest and most valuable topics in health and fitness. Today, we're going to be talking about one of the most beneficial supplements that we offer here at GCP, which is our Deep Sleep Gummies. And we know sleep is one of the 5 pillars of fat loss, as we discussed in episode 1, and getting sleep doesn't cost you any money, so why is it such a stumbling block for our clients? There are really 2 things that it comes down to, and we'll get into this a little bit later, but it really comes down to getting enough sleep and getting quality of sleep. So we're going to turn it over to Trevor, and he's going to tackle those a little bit and give us a little bit of context for where we're talking about today.
Yeah, so we wanted to start to break down the different supplements we have. So we do get a lot of supplement questions. And every supplement we have in stock is, or have on our website, is there for a purpose. It's to help people overcome some type of supplementation issue that they have. So deep sleeps are fix in a sense, or to one of our tools we utilize to help people that are having sleeping issues. So as you would imagine, we get a lot of questions about sleep, especially people that are having trouble falling asleep. And our sleep gummies are a great tool to help with this. I don't think they'll fix everything. They're a starting point. But let's go ahead and begin to talk about why sleep is important. So the first thing we need to do is talk about sleep quality. So there's 2 components, like Nick talked about. There's quality versus quantity, and I think obviously both are important. But in a realistic world, we're not going to be able to get and accomplish both of those. So we start with the quality idea. If I can only get somebody in bed for 5 hours, I just want to focus on that 5 hours. So there are 3 cycles of the sleep. So when we think about it, technically it's 4 cycles. We kind of break it down more to 3, but the 3 cycles are light, deep, and REM, or REM sleep. The 4th one's an awake cycle. Most people don't consider awake cycle as part of the cycles, but if you broke it down, it would be 4. But we're just going to talk about the 3. So when trying to increase the quality of sleep, we're looking to have more deep and REM sleep and reduce the amount of light sleep we have. So when you think about this as a diagram, right, like a pie graph. So in that pie graph, we're making up this pie graph of these things. And so if somebody doesn't have a really quality sleep, part of that, most of that pie graph is going to be light, right? So if you look at most, it's going to be light. What we're trying to do is take up more of that light and fill it with REM sleep and more deep sleep. So we're trying to get the more quality of those, which means get more. If I'm only asleep total for 6 hours, I want to get more of that. So light sleep is the period before deep sleep. Meant to do restorative work, but also make it so you're readily available to wake up. So this is based on like old ancient history, right? We've been ancestral time, is that we always had to be slightly awake. We had to have periods we couldn't be too deep asleep because we had to wake up for emergencies, disasters, animals attacking, things of that nature. So we do have to spend a decent amount of time. We need to spend at least 50% of our sleep at night in light sleep. And our body naturally puts us into that position because we have to be in a protective state. But when you're sleeping 75% of your time in light sleep, you're not getting enough of the other 2. Deep sleep, this is when your muscles repair and grow. This should be about 23% of your sleep. I'm getting these numbers from Whoop, is a company that we use for like sleep tracking, and that's where these numbers directly come from. REM sleep, this is where your brain actually restores and retools. This would be about 22% of your sleep. And then the wake sleep we talked about will probably be about 5% of your sleep in the all reality, because you do have a little segments every like quarter. The night's broken in like 4 quarters. You have about 4 quarters of time when you have a slight little awake period. You don't actually wake up, but your body's kind of in that wake state. So we really can't affect REM sleep. So a lot of things talk about REM sleep, but that's strictly on our brain. Our brain does all that. Meaning, like, if I only have 4 hours of sleep available, my body's going to utilize as much of that as it possibly can for deep sleep, for a REM sleep if it needs to. So if I'm breaking that down, I don't have to worry too much about REM sleep. We can't affect it at all. So we don't need to worry about that category. The one we really want to focus on is the deep sleep. Deep sleep is where we can make the biggest impact. Hence the name of our gummies, Deep Sleep Gummies, because that's the actual part we're affecting. To affect deep sleep, we can put together many tools and habits such as blackout curtains, bedtime routines, and supplements. If you only have 6 hours available sleep, we want to make 6 hours be at least 23% of it be deep sleep, so we can recover from our workouts, just daily movement, right? Like, it's not just like workouts; it's everything else going on through the day. Our body has to recover from that, regardless of how much effort it seems like it took. If you don't recover well, your muscles will be sore, your alertness will be down, inflammation throughout the body will be high, and I think that's kind of underestimated is how much inflammation. Even if you're somebody not working out, you're getting a ton of inflammation from food and other components throughout life, just daily life of sitting all day. Your hips get inflamed, lower back gets inflamed, the traps get inflamed from this position. So deep sleep can help reduce some of that. These can also affect fat loss by affecting how your workouts go, the food cravings you have, the laziness you're feeling, and a lot of other categories.
So now that we have a pretty good understanding of sleep, why it's important to get it for fat loss and for recovery, let's shift focus a little bit to our Deep Sleep Gummies. So Trevor, what exactly is in the supplement? What are the ingredients? And then how does it have an impact on improving sleep?
Yeah, so we have three main components of the deep sleep gummy. First one's vitamin B6. You can find this in many foods. It's also known as pyridoxine. It helps the body use and store energy from protein and carbohydrates in food. Vitamin B6 aids in the production of hormones, the hormones serotonin and melatonin, which are both important for sound, restful sleep and also for your mood. There's a strong correlation between depression and sleep problems, which most people know about, is that if you're not getting enough sleep, supposedly if you're under 4 hours of sleep a night consistently, you actually are like a zombie and you go into stages of diabetes after so long, and you go into stages of sleeplessness and like pretty much just zombiness, or a sense of like we don't have any sort of recovery from that. So B6 is one of the vitamins that helps with the hormones of serotonin and melatonin. It helps produce those better. Passiflora extract. This is an herb used to treat anxiety, insomnia, seizures, and hysteria. It appears to boost the level of gamma, so GABA, G-A-B-A, in your brain. This compound lowers brain activity, which may help you relax and sleep better. So the thing about GABA is you don't want to overstimulate GABA too often, because that your body has to be able to handle stresses on its own. So that's why we don't always try to trick GABA or like utilize GABA. So this herb is helping to optimize GABA instead of actually like replacing GABA. So we got to be a little careful with GABA itself, because it can be if we have too much GABA receptors, meaning like we're triggering them too often, we can actually affect our ability to produce GABA itself. But as you can see, if we can reduce somebody's anxiety, especially, I mean, we're not too worried about seizures and hysteria, but like their anxiety, we're going to get a better sleep. And then obviously we're trying to increase insomnia. And the last one is melatonin. Melatonin is a hormone that your brain produces by the pineal gland at night in responses to the dark. It helps with timing of your circadian rhythm and with sleep in general. We'll talk deeper about melatonin in a second, but melatonin is probably the most well-known sleep supplement. So we definitely had to make sure we had that in our toolkit with this.
So one question that I've heard from clients and I've seen online as well is melatonin and supplementing it safe, or is there any negative effects? So what would you say to people with this concern?
I mean, yeah, we'll break that down in three short parts, but in general, it is safe. Let's just to start with that part. It is safe, but it does affect our body in different ways. So in many different articles that I've read over years of trying to figure out melatonin, I used to take melatonin like 10 to 15 grams every single night. And I took that religiously for a long time just because I knew it'd get me a deeper sleep. But when I read about it, I realized that like over time, my body would start producing less and less melatonin because I had too much in my system in a sense, and the body became reliant on it. So the worst case with that in mind is like, what if my body did stop producing melatonin? Do I always have access to buy more melatonin? If I do, there's probably no issue because my body's still getting what it needs. It just doesn't produce it anymore. So that's not a true negative, especially in today's society. But it's okay for our body to produce it itself. And it's probably good that our body produces itself. So that way you don't have to worry about if I go on a week trip, I don't have to take my melatonin with me. I can actually sleep in the hotel room, right? So that is the only real negative of taking melatonin, is your body could over time not produce it as well. So that's why actually in our formula, we kept it to 2 milligrams. We didn't go up any higher than 2 milligrams because the lower dosage allows our body to go into that time release, that early sleep. It helps us with that, but it doesn't overdo it to the fact that like our body becomes dependent on it. Our body still has to produce some melatonin. 2 milligrams isn't enough to just produce melatonin. So our body is just giving us that little initial, like kind of falling asleep kind of feeling, but our body's still producing melatonin from. That's why we kept that melatonin on a lower side. Because you'll see most like Natrol and different brands like that, they'll be like 10 milligrams minimum to 25 milligrams. That's just too much melatonin because your body's not going to be able to produce that much.
Right. So now we know what's in deep sleep gummies and we know how they can help sleep recovery and fat loss. What are some other reasons why people might try taking them, and how would someone go about taking these supplements?
I mean, the main reason that we went to the gummies is they're tasty and people will take them. A lot of people have tons of pills in their cupboards and stuff, and they just never take them. So we realized like the gummy idea is going to be something I guarantee people are going to take. They're going. I would recommend taking them 15 to 30 minutes before your bedtime. You're going to take two of them. So a serving size is two of the gummies. The big thing you want to do there is my recommendation would be take it before you brush your teeth, right? Because you are having a gummy and it's going to be sugar. So take it before you brush your teeth. And the melatonin is a fast acting release. The style we're using is fast acting release. So what it does is it starts to like trigger the brain. I'm going to start getting ready for sleep and I want to fall asleep in a relatively short time. So that's why if you take it like 15, 20 minutes for if you take it right when you crawl into bed, it's got about 15, 20 minutes before the thing really kicks in. So if you start that process earlier, by the time you actually crawl in bed, you'll start to get in that sleepy category. You can use these on nights when you're home every single night because we don't have enough milligrams in it to matter. Like it's not going to be a negative of the melatonin side. But you can also take it with traveling. I really recommend it for people that travel because a lot of people have trouble sleeping when they're traveling. So this is a great tool. Even if you weren't using it every night, you don't need it every night to have the supplement on hand for when I go traveling is a huge. I know like when my mom, when she travels, she has a little trouble sleeping in her hotel rooms and stuff. I don't really have that issue at all. But like I know a lot of people do. So it's just a great travel tool.
Right. And what can our listeners do to start getting better sleep right now?
I mean, if you start struggling with sleep gummies are a simple, easy way to go. Like it's a very good starting point. But there are many things you can do to work on your sleep, and we'll definitely dig into those on future podcasts. I think it's worth because sleep's one of our 5 pillars of fat loss, so we need to dig into it more. And we talk about a few things like blackout curtains, and cold room temperature. We'll talk about more of those later down the road. But the biggest thing, quickest tip, and when it comes down to habits, I always want what's the simplest, fastest thing we put in place. And sleep gummies are, because that's going to be a tool we're going to ask people to take regardless. This is the quickest thing. Pop them in, chew them up. They'll be tasty. So it's a great starting tool.
And where can our listeners look to learn a little bit more about sleep?
So I take all my sleep from Whoop. Whoop is a band design that's meant really for sleep. It tracks sleep. It does a lot of other things, but it's really sleep is what they do best. So they have articles on their thing. One of my favorite ones is the different stages of sleep, which I kind of talked about earlier on the different the 4 different stages of sleep. But they have so many articles on there if you want to learn more about sleep habits. We take a lot of our sleep advice, almost all of our sleep advice from Whoop because they're the experts at it.
And one last thing, where can our listeners go to get themselves some deep sleep?
I mean, it's always on our shelf. It's one of those products that we keep on our shelf all the time if you're in the gym. And we do have gcpsups.com. So if you're somebody listening from Iowa or anywhere else that we're at, that we have friends and family at, you can order it from there. So gcpsups.com, very simple to put in. All of our supplements you can buy from that as well, but Deep Sleep Gummies are definitely on there.
All right, well, we'll have that link to gcpsups.com in the show notes, as well as a link to an article from Whoop, and the references that we talked about today will also be in the show notes below. I hope you all have enjoyed discussing today's topic. Remember, the best time to start living healthier is today, so make sure to take action as soon as you can in your life right away. If you enjoyed today's episode, please give us a review. You can do that on Spotify. You can write one on Apple Podcasts as well. Subscribe so you don't miss the next episodes, and then follow us on social media to stay up to date on all of our new episodes, upcoming episodes in the future. If you have any ideas for topics or anything you'd like us to discuss, let us know. You can leave a comment or send us an email. Thanks again. I hope you will join us for the next episode of The Process of Fat Loss.
And remember, guys, there's no time to start changing like right now.